It was an ordinary walk on an overgrown trail in rural Virginia when one woman stumbled onto something extraordinary: towering statues of former USPS, presidents scattered across a deserted field. Their stone faces, weathered yet imposing, rose high above the tall grass. Abraham Lincoln's stern gaze, Lyndon Johnson's sharp features, and dozens of others stood silently in rows, as though frozen mid-conversation in a forgotten monument garden. At first glance, the statues appeared misplaced, like relics left behind after a parade of history. Each bust measured nearly 20 feet high, dwarfing the woman who stood among them. Their scale alone made the sight unsettling, but what was more startling was the sheer number. Dozens of presidential likenesses sprawled across the field, heads tilted at odd angles, some streaked with moss and cracks from years of neglect. But before we start, smash the like button and make sure to subscribe if you haven't, and hit that notification bell so that you won't miss any new stories. For locals, these giants are hardly new. Known as the President Heads, they were once part of a grand tourist attraction called President's Park, opened in Williamsburg in 2004. Designed to celebrate American history through monumental art, the park featured massive busts of every U.S. president, carefully crafted to preserve detail and personality. But by 2010, visitor numbers dwindled, and the park shut down, leaving the future of the sculptures uncertain. Rather than demolish the statues, a local landowner and construction company owner named Howard Hankins decided to save them. Hankins, who had originally helped build the park, felt a deep responsibility to preserve the work. He transported the heads to his private property outside Williamsburg, placing them in a field until a new home could be found. That field, overgrown with weeds, is where the woman unexpectedly found herself. Standing in the middle of this forgotten collection, she was struck not just by the art itself, but by its condition. Many of the busts bore visible scars. Lincoln's head cracked down the side, Kennedy's face chipped, Nixon's nose broken. Time and weather had taken their toll, transforming the sculptures from pristine monuments into haunting reminders of how quickly grandeur can fade without care. The field has since become a quiet, offbeat landmark. Though not an official tourist site, word of the head graveyard has spread through photos and social media. Visitors who make the trek often describe the eerie atmosphere, an odd mix of reverence and unease. Seeing America's leaders displaced, surrounded by weeds and silence, gives the impression of history abandoned, waiting for rediscovery. The woman, like many who visit, wanted to know why the heads were left here and why no effort had been made to restore them. Local residents explained that moving such enormous sculptures would be costly and complicated. Each bust weighs between 18, 0 and 22, 0 pounds, requiring heavy machinery just to shift one. The financial burden of relocating or refurbishing them has left them stranded, yet their existence in this hidden field is not without purpose. Hankins, the caretaker, has often spoken about his hope to see them preserved in a museum or educational setting someday. Until that opportunity arises, the statues remain where they are, serving as a kind of open-air gallery, accessible only to those curious enough to seek them out. For the woman, the statues carried a symbolic weight. Standing before Lincoln's cracked but steady gaze, she reflected on how history, like stone, can endure even when neglected. Though these figures were cast aside from their original stage, their presence here reminded her that memory and legacy can persist in unexpected places, waiting for someone to notice. From a distance, the heads appear almost surreal giants emerging from the earth. Up close, the craftsmanship reveals the sculptor's dedication, the deep lines of Roosevelt's face, the careful hair texture on Washington, the stern posture of Eisenhower. Each one captures not just physical likeness but a sense of character, frozen in stone for generations that may never see them in a polished setting again. The field itself adds to the atmosphere. Weeds grow between the statues, shrubs curl around their bases, and rainwater stains run like tears down their faces. In this forgotten corner of Virginia, nature and history meet in uneasy harmony, creating an unplanned art installation unlike any museum or memorial. Neighbors have mixed feelings about the statues. Some see them as an eyesore, a reminder of failed tourism and wasted money. Others embrace them as a quirky piece of Americana, something that makes their community unique. For many visitors, the field sparks both amusement and awe-amusement at the absurdity of giant presidential heads in a field, awe at their size and silent presence. While the heads remain in limbo, they have not gone unnoticed. Photographers, artists, and filmmakers have used the site as a backdrop, finding inspiration in its surreal energy. Travel bloggers share images of the statues, fueling interest from around the world. Though officially closed to the public, the site continues to attract attention, its reputation growing with each shared photo. Experts say the statues carry cultural significance beyond their unusual placement. They represent an era when monumental art sought to inspire civic pride. Their abandonment, conversely, reflects changing times, shrinking budgets for public art, shifting tourist interests, and the challenges of preserving large-scale works outside traditional institutions. The woman's discovery reminded her how easily history can be sidelined when financial or cultural priorities change. The statues once stood as a tribute to national memory, yet now they stand in weeds, maintained only by the stubborn will of one man. Still, their resilience speaks volumes. They have survived demolition, transport, and neglect, remaining symbols of endurance. Hankins has occasionally opened the site for guided tours, allowing visitors to walk among the statues legally. These rare events draw large crowds, proving that fascination with the president heads has not disappeared. People are willing to travel and pay to see them, suggesting that with the right investment, they could thrive again as a historical attraction. For now, the woman's experience is one of many small encounters that keep the statues relevant. Each visitor who shares their story adds another layer to their legacy, ensuring they are not forgotten entirely. In this way, the field functions not as a graveyard, but as a place of quiet continuity where the past waits for the future to catch up. As she walked away, the woman couldn't help but think of the irony. These were once icons of power, pride, and visibility, now reduced to hidden giants in a field. Yet perhaps that humility, stripped of ceremony, exposed to weather and time, makes them more human. History, she thought, is not always preserved in marble halls. Sometimes it survives in fields of weeds. Local officials remain uncertain about what, if anything, will be done with the statues. Until funding or institutional support emerges, their fate rests with Hankins, who continues to guard them as best he can. He has expressed hope that one day they might stand again in a more fitting environment, but for now they belong to the field. What the woman discovered was not just an odd collection of monuments, but a story about legacy, neglect, and resilience. These presidential heads, cracked and weathered, serve as unlikely storytellers, reminding us that history is not always neat or carefully displayed. Sometimes it stands in the weeds, waiting for someone to notice, reflect, and pass the story along.